Hello, everybody. Good evening, and welcome to the show. First episode of me hosting tonight. We got Tuesday's Taco Boat. And today we talking about, well, as the title suggests, we got a deep and wide show for you tonight. It's going to be Christ, it's going to be cannabis, it's going to be crypto, and it's going to be authority through competency. So stay tuned for how I'm going to tie this all together.
Welcome to Winnipeg Alternative Media, where uncensored truth matters. Our mission is information freedom. You're watching Prairie Truth with Todd McDougall and Mike Jarrow. Check out our latest merch at wham.live/shop. Help out our mission at wham.live/donate. Join the resistance, stay informed, subscribe to our newsletter. Find everything Winnipeg Alternative Media at wham.live. Live, uncut, unedited, when it matters. You are the tyranny immune system. Winnipeg Alternative Media presents Prairie Truth.
Hey, guys. All right, welcome to the show. So, yeah, I've got a little bit of a presentation for you tonight. Let's dive into kind of my mind and how I see things. And yeah, I think can help provide some clarity for the freedom movement. And yeah, let's dig right into it. So first and foremost, if you guys got any comments at any point or questions, please hit the comments. I will show them and I will be responding to them. I may not respond immediately, and yeah, but we will answer all the questions here. So yeah, I guess like how can I tie? Well, first I'm gonna start off with a little bit of my own personal story here, guys, just to kind of give you some perspective of who Mike Jarrow is and why I am so passionate about freedom and individual political sovereignty. Hey, Beverly. Yeah, so basically the genesis of Mike Jarrow, if you will. I grew up here in Winnipeg, Manitoba, and some of my first memories actually were visions in dreams where I believe that God gave me visions of essentially future, like deja vu, really. Deja vu. If you guys ever had that, is deja vu, except it was very vivid. So as a child, as a young child, I would have deja vu experiences in my dreams, which were extremely vivid, and I wouldn't really understand why I would remember specific weird moments. And then a week later or so, these visions would actually occur. Hey guys, thanks for joining in. Yeah. So, anyways, all that to be said, like that's kind of like the genesis of who I am. Is as a young kid, always been profoundly interested in philosophy and trying to understand like what is life, and even trying to understand the spiritual context of life itself. Um, Yeah. So anyways, I guess as a kid that made me just think as a philosopher, as a young philosopher, just think, there's got to be some part of our spirit, of our consciousness that's outside of space and time, because I was like literally having visions of the future and then they would happen. So I was thinking to myself like, this is at least evidence that our consciousness may be outside of space and time. So that's kind of just the preamble to what we're going to discuss here. And then later on in life, I spent a lot of time learning about lucid dreaming as when I was 12 years old, and that was fascinating. Diving right into the dream world and trying to go out of body actually quite a bit. So as I was 16, 17, I moved out onto my own. I lived by Assiniboine Park here in Winnipeg, and I like to meditate in the trees and just kind of think about life in general. I was always just fascinated by what is this experience that we're in and why are we here ultimately. So, yeah, when I think of Christ and talk about Christ, I think it's actually very different. And I just ask you guys to set your preconceived notions of what that may be aside, whether you are a believer in Christ or not. The thing is that I realize I thought about a lot when I was in my 16, 17-year-old philosophic phase was that even like yin and yang, well, the way is in the middle of those two principles, and therefore Christ is like the way. This logos, this symbolic being who is Christ, is in all things and through all things, but simultaneously God is wholly separate and above all things. So again, this is going to be about an hour of me rambling about my ideas, guys. So thanks for joining me here. But yeah, so again, as a teenager, I was profoundly interested. I was into psychedelics. I wanted to understand from any kind of possible perspective what is life. And so yeah, so going into what I thought about Christ, what I ultimately realized, especially as an adult, is he was the first civil disobedient. Like he absolutely was just he really got nailed to a cross because he wanted to heal people, right? If you look back, he was calling out the hypocrites and the Pharisees constantly because he was going around healing people even on the Sabbath. And they would say, well, how could you heal on the Sabbath? You're doing work. And so a big part of who Christ is, biblically speaking, is a guy who is a civil disobedient who really just wanted to help people and love people with the love of God, of the Father, right? So yeah, that is the key point here that I'm trying to make, is that Christ is the first civil disobedient that we have in history of note, right? So, oh, what's up, Todd?
I never remember when I just randomly choose to join a broadcast, if it actually just puts me right on screen instantly, or if like you kind of like, who's in charge of the broadcast has the chance to invite me on, which is what I was hoping for. So that looks like a terribly like rude thing to jumping on. I didn't mean to.
Yeah, no,
I was hoping
good,
I'd be backstage for a moment.
You're being a civil disobedient here, Todd. No, that's what I was just
so.
talking
I think
about.
so.
Is how historically speaking, like you don't have to be religious or anything, but historically speaking, Christ is one of the most profound and prominent civil disobedience that. Yeah, thanks. So strange that the decades separate us. Okay, yeah. You always sound so calm and aware and not afraid to speak openly about your faith. Oh, well, I appreciate that. That's really cool. Yeah. Because that's really what it comes down to, actually, when I'm talking about lucid dreaming and these visions that I had, is that I really realized that from my perspective, the ultimate purpose of reality is a created being, who we are, and the creator of being, who is ineffable, who is you can never summarize God. You can't summarize him into any one thing. Or we always try to make idols out of God and worship those idols. But no, the proper stance of the heart is always that we are actually, we are in a personal relationship with God, with the ultimate being, the supreme collective subconscious, if you will. So that's why, for me, it's very clear in my life that God speaks to me through visions and dreams and signs and wonders. But yeah, so we're going a little bit all over the place, but praise the Lord. And well, Jesus was the first civil disobedience. So let's stay in that path. So yeah, the next topic basically that I wanted to jump to was the Magna Carta, which I think is kind of like
somebody's asking, am I unwell?
Are you unwell, Todd?
Perfectly fine. I might look like extremely tired. Yeah, not a ton of sleep last night and a pretty busy day working today. But other than that, I'm just fine. I'm not in the studio because I don't know. I kind of just chose not to be today, and this is Mike's show, anyways. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I'm
I've
trying to. We're
already
trying
like
something
I
new around here, where I'm in the driver's seat. It's good. It's good.
exactly, exactly. So you know what? I'll step off camera for a little bit. You're doing awesome, Mike. By the way, I think everybody show of like comments right now, even just like 10 minutes in, how many people would like to see Mike continue to host some stuff, right? Hands way up right there. Two
Well,
hands.
thanks. I got
Anyhow,
you. Thanks, guys.
well, I
More to come.
specifically
More to
just wanted
come.
to come by to make a few comments when when you really get into some of the cryptocurrency stuff. So I will wait my turn, and when you
Awesome.
kind of get
Awesome.
into the
It's gonna be
crypto,
good.
I'll come on back.
It's gonna be about 7:30. We got a little bit of preamble here. 7:20. Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
So
cool,
we'll
cool,
get into
man.
crypto about halfway through, everybody.
Let's see here. Can
Alrighty.
you like?
Oh, I'll kick you off there, Todd. Yeah. Hey, Laura. Hey, Laura. Okay, so yeah. So Christ, civil disobedient. Magna Carta, again, the civil disobedience. Um, so yeah, civilization is actually founded on civil disobedience. It's not founded on obeying your masters. It's not founded on following the rules. And this is essentially I truly believe in deja vu. Yeah, like our consciousness is beyond space and time. It's fantastic. Yeah. So from there, from the Magna Carta, where we basically told the leaders to, F off, like in the biggest way possible, almost 1,000 years ago, came the invention of the printing press. And so that's where this is going too, with cryptocurrency being a type of new printing press, right? So what we see historically is the printing press being invented, and through that, what happens? Does anybody know who can give me some shout outs here? What did the printing press do for humanity? Let's get a little bit of audience engagement over here, guys. What did the printing press do for humanity? It was a technological leap that did so much, but it took a long time to actually work out the implications. It took a long time for the printing press to actually impact humanity, right? It took hundreds of years, you could argue. So yeah, the printing press made it possible for people to print out their Bible over and over and over again, and people could then interpret and read their Bible themselves, right? So they no longer had to rely on these aristocracy, high up priests who were the only ones who could read and interpret the Bible for them, right? So that was like the Catholics, and that's what spurred on the whole cultural renaissance in the first place. So if you know me, I'm a Renaissance man. I love the idea of new culture, but not just new culture for the sake of new culture, but actually culture sold the cultural revival. Like what is true culture? We've had it before. Printing press really messed this up right from the beginning when Peter sold the whereabouts of. Well, the printing press actually had nothing to do with Peter originally. The printing press was in like the 1600s. But what it allowed us to do is read, which improved literacy across the board. So, yeah, Michelle, can you go into that a little bit? Like, how did the printing press really mess us up? I want to know your thoughts on that. That'd be great. Because yeah, from my perspective, the printing press was something that exponentially improved the intelligence of people, and it allowed us to be more free. It allowed us to be more free because we can interpret things for ourselves. Going to be living in the most beautiful place, Quadra Island, BC. Oh man, that would be pretty awesome. A little homestead out in BC. All right, so with the printing press, what it allowed us to do was create new social structures too. Eventually, with the literacy, with philosophy, with people being able to print and read their own books, not just the Bible, people were actually able to come up with new ways of organizing themselves. And that's another part of this conversation, is the competency part, authority through competency. So the Renaissance, for me, the original Renaissance, is a big way, has to do with authority, right? So how authority was structured before the Renaissance and before the printing press was vastly different from how it's structured after the printing press and after the Renaissance. So before the printing press, before the new West, the Americas, whatever, free countries of the West, authority was handed down through the sake of authority, for the sake of authority. It was handed down from king to son and through lineage, right? It wasn't actually, it wasn't handed down for any reason except bloodline, which is obviously, it worked at the time, but the brilliant thing that came out of the Renaissance was this idea of authority through competence. When did people, yeah, wasn't that, what's his name? The J guy? Don't even say his name. But yeah, so after the printing press was invented, there was a cultural shift. It took hundreds of years, but there's a cultural shift towards business oligarchs rather than just kings and queens, right? So businesses became the most like, the highest order of people. And that's because whoever could run the most competent business and serve people the best, that's really what it came down to. Instead of kings like fighting each other for power, it became businesses cooperating but also competing to defeat their own bad service and be the best at serving people. Like, that's just one of the most beautiful things I think that we really have currently in our society. Like, I remember being painting, and it's really a battle against yourself, right? To get the best service to the customer. So, like if I'm lazy in the morning, or I don't do my paperwork exactly properly, or I don't cross all my T's and dot my I's, then like the service to the customer gets worse. And if the service to the customer gets worse, then my business fails and I do worse as a person financially, right? So that's just the most fascinating thing for me. Yeah, obviously capitalism has its flaws, and obviously like business tycoons also have their flaws, but the point is that we shifted from a world where kings are fighting each other for power to a world where people are cooperating under a lawful system, where they're actually just competing with each other, co-opetition really, in the same industry, competing to be on top of that industry. So that's one of the most brilliant things that we could see come out of the printing press, printing out the Bible, getting people able to interpret this idea of Jesus for themselves, or Christ for themselves, and then we became a much more peaceful society as a result. All right, so that kind of brings us to a couple hundred years ago, where we've got a new kind of societal organization. The authority structures of the pre-printing press era kind of falling away, dissolving. The Catholic Church is not as powerful anymore. Monarchs are not as powerful anymore. Now, you can imagine there's going to be a lot of people who are really mad about that, but their power just slowly dissolves to the point where we have the free world of maybe 100 or 200 years ago. Now, it's such an interesting thing because, to me, if we look back to like the 1800s, for instance, there was so much more freedom for people who were in the in group. Like if you were in the majority populace of the American peoples, you had so much freedom. You didn't have to show any papers to travel anywhere. You didn't have to pay any taxes. Like there was so much political freedom because literally the individual was seated as the sovereign of their own life. Like you were, and still that's the remnants of our culture now. Like you're supposed to be the sovereign political, the political sovereign over your own jurisdiction and your livelihood. Now, there's some good things truly that have come from the development and modernization of the last like 50 years to 100 years, which I would say would be like ending Jim Crow stuff and just having people be more equal all around. Those are actually good things. Now, obviously, we all know the toxic levels of this like social justice warrior crap going too far. But yeah, there is definite political degradation while there was also certain amount of like accepting people getting better. And so that's, I think, one of the key things. Like we want to return to a culture where the individual is politically sovereign, but we don't want to return to a culture where the out group is so demonized and cast out. And so that kind of actually is a perfect segue then into cannabis, because for me, from my perspective, as a teenager, I was very skeptical of authorities. And so when they would just say, well, cannabis is bad because it's illegal, or it's illegal because it's bad, and they just don't even have any reasoning for why they're throwing people in jail for a plant. Like it was absolutely fascinating to me how quickly people would just go to violence for somebody that is not in their immediate group, you know? Just like, where's the love? So to me, that like I'll accost Christians actually for being on board with cannabis prohibition, because, well, it's part of the holy anointing oil. If you look at calamus, the translation of canos blossom, it's actually, there's a good likelihood that it's part of the holy anointing oil. And I could go into it a little bit deeper, but there is other episodes where I've done that with Dr. Bob, and we talk about the physics of life and how cancer is defeated by cannabis, and how the electron transport system in cells, like cellular metabolism, is all regulated by endogenous cannabinoids, and yada yada. Like there's other episodes, wham.live/Dr. Bob on that. But okay, Michelle, yeah, so just to finish on the cannabis thing quickly, I'll read that comment in a second. But yeah, so from my perspective, it's very, very evil that our society has had medical tyranny for about 100 years with cannabis, and would be throwing people in jail. And one of the key points on that too is actually the Jamaican Mothers study, which people say, oh, it's been debunked and whatnot. But actually, cannabis seems to affect people's mindset, where they're more autonomous and more likely to speak up and be also more socially developed. So like I see that, I understand it. There's also endogenous cannabinoids in mother's milk. So like that's another thing that I thought about 3-4 years ago, is that the government would like to be sticking newborn babies with needles because that's man-made, man idolizing himself, thinking he's got it better than nature, when actually God would just say, you know, have a mother give the child, like nurse the child, right? Because there's endogenous cannabinoids in mother's milk. And a lot of moms, when I say that, they're like, oh, that's why my baby's like all googly eyed and silly and resty when, like, after they go into the milk, because they're basically getting their natural dose of cannabinoids. So that being said, that's one of the parts where we've kind of lost touch with our competence, lost touch with our love. And so it has, I'd say, is kind of the core like seeding of our issues currently with our culture and where we are, and why people are such sheep, because their endogenous cannabinoid system is malnourished actually. And that was proven in a court in Colorado, where they Dr. Bob that I talked to on the show proved that in front of a court, and the judges accepted it, that cannabis is an essential nutrient for mankind. We have an endogenous cannabinoid system that regulates everything in our bodies from conception to death, and keeps us balanced in terms of our cellular metabolism. So yeah, it was an absolute crime against humanity for cannabis to be made illegal and to throw people in jail for the peace flower. So let's read this. Let's see what you got, Michelle. This is great. Yes, it allowed us to be free, but we were tied to money. Either you had it or you didn't. If you didn't, like me, it was a very hard life, and I felt unworthy at times to associate with those I thought had it. I wanted to be like them. Okay, so basically money, and I was often sad and angry. It took decades for me to understand that being among the have-nots wasn't so bad either. I was Catholic and forbidden to not read the Bible. Wow, that's so crazy. See, that's like, again, that neo-feudal mindset. Like they're almost going back like 400 years by saying, don't read your Bible. So there was going to be hell to pay if the nuns would find out that you wrote. Wow, yeah. It's not a drug, it's a natural herb. Yeah, exactly. And it's actually in the holy anointing oil, guys. Like this is something you got to push your Christian folks on. Like it's in the holy anointing oil. I know a lot of Christians are very progressive in that sense now, and they understand it, especially because it's like made legal. But like the core of this here too is civil disobedience is the foundation of civilization. So yeah, it's I've seen so many people just start growing cannabis, extracting the oil, curing people's cancer, all against the whole medical system. And and yeah, it's sad, really. But we're in a different place now, and yeah. So that's just so fascinating, Michelle, that yeah, there's literally people that are still living as if it was 500 years ago. You know what I mean? Like that, those Catholics telling you not to interpret and read your Bible for themselves. They're basically just living as if they're that. And this is why I keep talking about neo-feudalism. It's not, it's like there's so many people who are still in this feudal mindset where they do not understand even the core message of what Christ was saying, which is that if you are a Christ follower, you're initiated and you are a king and a priest over your own life, which is referring to the political and to the spiritual. You are the priest of your own life and you're the king of your own life. So politics and religion should stay separate in institutions, but they cross and unify in the heart of every individual. So yeah. All right, all right. Let's check for my notes here. So how do we get from cannabis and all of that to cryptocurrency? Because yeah, we can. All right, all right. So essentially, cryptocurrency. I was always looking at the internet. I was a nerd since I was like 12. I was always on the computer. It's fascinating. I think that part of the internet and computers in the first place is like a new printing press where we are able to essentially live stream everything. And so it wards off evil, right? Like if we're able to live stream everything and we're able to have everybody be a media personality who can talk about their mind, it's all flourishing free speech, which is going to heal the planet and it's going to make the planet a much better place. If everybody can come and speak in the town square, then the town's going to be a way better place than if only 2 or 3 people can speak. And that's essentially what I see with the internet as a whole, that this technology is the same thing the printing press did, was exponentially create the opportunity for exponential information distribution, right? So people learning to read, people learning, getting books in their hands that they could not have before. Yeah. So people getting those books and being able to read, learning to read, I think we're kind of going through these growing pains too. Like imagine when the printing press existed, how many people would have been like, there would have honestly been people who would have been scared of books and scared of like, where are books going to take us? Where is this technology going to take us? And yeah, people would have been like reading hesitant. They would have been kind of have a difficult time getting into books, especially if you lived like 30, 40, 50 years of your life, more than half of your life, without learning to read. And then all of a sudden people were learning to read around you. You would probably be like, I'll never learn to read. Like, that's very difficult. It's like, leave it for the young folks, right? So I still see a lot of the same kind of those same principles repeated with technology and with computers. There's a lot of people who were initially like older generations that are just like, computers, like get out of my face. I don't want to do this technical jargon. And I understand that. Like it's, yeah, like computers are not the be all end all for sure. And we need to be out there and interacting with people. That's so critical. But we also can't just shun a technology that has so much potential for good. Especially because if we do that, then it's just going to open the door for people who have evil intentions to use that technology. So that being said, right at 7:30, we are opening up the discussion to cryptocurrency. So if you guys have any questions about crypto, or if you're skeptical, or if you have any reasoning why you would never buy crypto, or maybe you love crypto, whatever, throw in the comments. We'll talk about it. So the black swan event, if you will, I always thought computers were great because of information distribution, but now I'm realizing that holy smokes, they're even better because they allow any individual to create their own currency. And that's something that is was never really considered before, but it's yeah, I think that's almost essential. It's like every community, every organization, anyone who's anyone can create their own currency. And the that doesn't mean that any currency is good. There's a lot of shit coins out there that you got to steer clear from because they're called rugged. You're like rug pulls, right? Where they just pump them up, and then you buy into it, and then they just steal all the money. Like, yeah, there's so much, there's so much garbage out there in the Wild West that is the cryptocurrency sphere, right? So we do have to be careful of that, but that's where innovation also comes from. And so, from my perspective, it's pretty clear to me that cryptocurrency is something that's enabling the individual, the not political class, not the bureaucracy, enabling them to kind of take back their power, essentially. It's going to enable us to take back our power. Our power. Yeah, it was Judas, and he didn't have a printing press when he gave away Jesus' location. But so yeah. So going over money as a whole, let's talk about gold, fiat, and then now crypto, right? So gold is the ultimate store of money. And it used to be what all fiat was tied to. So if you had a dollar in paper, you had a dollar in gold. Like it was, that's part of why our economies here in the West, what they were founded on and why they became so strong and yeah, and so robust is because everything was built on the gold standard. And that's obviously great. Like if you have wealth, you should definitely have some of it in gold. But, you know, if things go really weird in life, and the networks go down. Yeah, it's a store of value, John. Welcome to the show. Thanks for showing up. Yeah, gold is a great store of value, but at the same time, if you are in an apocalypse scenario, you're probably gonna want like salt and yeah, they emptied the vaults, that's for sure. Not just the maple syrup vaults. But yeah, so gold is great in a lot of ways. It's a store of value, it's hard to mine, but it's kind of difficult to transport around, so it's not very convenient in terms of a purchasing dollar. It's not very convenient. In fact, it's the opposite of convenient. If you wanted to pay another country in gold, you'd have to ship a boat there, and like you'd have to pay for all the security around it. Not to mention you have to verify the gold to make sure that it's actually pure and it is what they say it is, and there's not just like a banana in the center. But yeah, well, he was paid that from. Yeah, Trudeau emptied the gold vaults. I think I can't vouch on that, but I know where our gold is pretty much gone, and that's dumb. But yeah, again, if you're in an apocalypse, guys, you're gonna want to have like meat. You're gonna want to have rice. You're gonna want to have spices and water, and yeah. So if crypto comes into full pledge, will our current currency still be usable? Well, yeah, so that's a great question. Now, yeah, our current currency will still be usable. Ammo, yeah, exactly, John. Like if apocalypse, a box of ammo is worth way more than an ounce of gold or whatever. Gold is so useless in that sense. So, but yeah, so cryptocurrency, will our current currency be still usable? Yes, and that's actually one of the key parts here because we could have already suffered hyperinflation if it wasn't due to cryptocurrency existing. Right, so it's kind of like the same thing with the cameras and you know, everybody being able to film everything holds everybody accountable. Well, having cryptocurrency holds fiat systems accountable, so they don't hyperinflate. Now they are still like Trudeau printing tons of money. We're seeing crazy inflation, but at least if things went really crazy with hyperinflation this time around, then we would be able to pile our wealth into crypto, into Bitcoin, and we'd be able to use crypto, specifically Bitcoin. We'd be able to use that to protect ourselves from hyperinflation, and it would result in us still being able to have an economy. So that's kind of the idea, is that it's a currency that's not controlled by the state. Yeah, Trudeau hasn't really been doing too much, I think, but yeah, it's pretty funny how he comes right back home and he's all masked up and everything. Like, it's such a charade. Anyways, guys, so again, so with cryptocurrency too, like a lot of people don't realize that it's much more than currency. What's happening now is that we're seeing not just we're seeing the ennoblement of digital artists with NFTs. A lot of people don't quite understand like what an NFT is, but it really is it's actually, people think, well, you could just screenshot, yeah, you could just screenshot an NFT or something. And it's like, yeah, but actually that's the problem that NFTs solve. That's not a problem with NFTs. That's a problem that NFTs solve. Yeah, Monero is good. Is privacy coins. So that's okay. That's a great point, John. Like a lot of people have concerns about cryptocurrency and privacy, and they think, well, if we're going to an all digital system, everything will be trackable. But actually, even with Bitcoin, like, yeah, I lean towards private coins. Those are great to have. But with Bitcoin, you can have a private wallet. So you can fill your Bitcoin into a wallet and nobody in the world will know that that's your wallet. It'll just be a string of numbers and letters. So yeah, Carter, that's a great point. We'll get to there. So you can have a private Bitcoin wallet that nobody knows whose wallet that is. And that's actually an amazing thing that you can't have with a bank account currently. So that's why Bitcoin enhances privacy. It doesn't make it less private, it enhances privacy. Because you can have a private wallet that nobody knows whose wallet that is. And that's actually a benefit too, because then if you see large wallets moving billions of dollars around, you may not know whose wallet that is, but you can see the transactions and where they're going to. If they're going to a public wallet of somebody, then you could say, well, look, billions of dollars went from that wallet into this politician's wallet. So people can actually see the transactions on the network, but they can't always see who is behind the transactions. So it's an interesting thing, because with our current crypto for convoy. So with our current Swift banking system, nobody can see the transactions except the government, and everybody has to have a name attached to a bank account. So in all senses of the word, Bitcoin enhances privacy, because you can have a private wallet, and you can also then, you could see what transactions are going where. So Carter, great question here. So you can't go to Superstore and pay with cryptocurrency. Now this is a definite problem, but mass adoption's coming. Like, we're seeing NFTs getting built into Instagram and more. But the point is here is that actually, I really think that the play for us as a freedom community is alternative societies or breakaway societies, because yeah, well, Linda, that's a great question too. That's a great question. What is wrong with cash? But let's answer this first. So we need to have breakaway societies, which we can use our own currency that's not inflationary, or we can choose how much inflation it is, because we, as a little micro society like Freedom Manitoba or whatever, like WHAM, like we could, it doesn't matter what group we put ourselves under, but we can issue our own currency. And then if you don't like it, you can separate and issue your own currency. Yeah, so you can cash in crypto and then buy Visa gift cards to go and purchase groceries at Superstore. So that's a great point. You can go to an ATM and transfer your Bitcoin back into cash. Like, those are Bitcoin ATMs where you can go and you can buy Bitcoin at the ATM, or you can go and sell your Bitcoin at the ATM and get cash. So you can absolutely transfer your Bitcoin back into cash if you want. But that's also where, like, a lot of people, like, I know people who are going the route of seeding this alternative economy, which is like people who want to rent land or rent a home, be a landlord and get paid in crypto. People who want to sell meat in crypto. People who are going to sell eggs in crypto, so that we can start buying from local farmers in a currency that's secure, that's safe, and that isn't going to be inflationary, based on the whims of some politicians. So that's what is wrong with cash, Linda, is that, yeah, cash is controlled. There would be nothing wrong with cash if it was backed by gold or even backed by Bitcoin, which we're probably going to see the world reserve currency become Bitcoin, guys. So it'd probably be a good idea to at least put a few dollars into it. But yeah, what's wrong with cash is that like it's at the whim of politicians. So right now, if you're holding your little knuckle bucks, those are, yeah, WEF coin. Like those are basically World Economic Forum coins, right? That you're holding physically in your hand. And Trudeau and his goons can just start printing more and printing more and printing more. And then as you're holding your dollar, it's like evaporating before your eyes, right? So that's the problem with cash. Obviously, I would love if you're paying for things with physical gold coins, then that's still not inflationary, but there's inherent problems and risks with that. Because then if all your wealth is in gold, then somebody can come steal it easily, or you have to prove and verify that your gold coin is actually pure gold. And there's issues with transporting gold as well. So Musk is going to get Twitter. Many rich people have endorsed him yesterday. So, okay, well, yeah, that's an interesting thing too. Like, I'm not a huge Musk fanboy, but for the most part, he seems to be going in the right direction. But you never know. He might be it might be a hoodwink. How do you know it's safe? So, Diane, crypto is actually one of the more safe things. In fact, if you got to be careful what you're doing. You don't just go on like Twitter and go, oh, look, somebody's giving away Bitcoin. I just have to send my Bitcoin here and they'll give me more. It's like, no, like there are scams out there. But the point is that actually crypto Bitcoin is more safe than your bank. And that's why people are flocking to crypto, because not only is your money protected, but nobody has access to your wallet. So there is two sides of that. There is custodial wallets and then there's non-custodial wallets. So anything, you can go onto cryptocurrency exchanges where you can trade the crypto and it's kind of like a stock exchange market. And that's where they have control over your crypto. And that's called custodial wallet. You might see your balance there, but it's not owned by you. Whereas if you have it in a non-custodial wallet where you actually own your passphrase, then it's actually impossible for anybody else to steal it. Carter, so who is a reputable crypto seller? So there are different ways of getting crypto. So who says crypto is safe? So again, it's actually safer. Bitcoin specifically is safer than the bank. Like if the government can steal your money out of your bank account at any time that they want, but they cannot close your crypto account. That was what I was saying. If you have your Bitcoin on like a cryptocurrency exchange, yeah, they could go there and they can say, yeah, nope, you're done, shut down. But that's because you're giving your crypto to that exchange and letting them hold it for you. That's why I'm saying is like, no, the real way to use cryptocurrency is called a non-custodial wallet, even a cold wallet where you have a little device that has your passphrase on it. That is your wallet. And so push delete and my crypto account is gone. No, but if you lose your passphrase, then your money is inaccessible. So that is a problem. There are certain things, there are technologies, yeah, thanks, John. Appreciate it. There are advancements coming to the cryptocurrency sphere that I think are going to make it easier to recover a lost crypto wallet, which would be a huge advancement. But that's really what it comes down to. It's like saying you're responsible for your money. So if you lose it, it's gone. But that's also that you're responsible for your money. So if the government wants to come steal it, they can't. If the government wants to shut you down, they can't. Right? So there's benefits and privileges to being responsible for yourself, but there are also inherent risks. So cash has always worked for hundreds of years. Yeah, but why, Linda? Why did cash work for hundreds of years? It worked for hundreds of years because it was actually backed by gold. So the pound sterling or whatever, like the pound in England, like everything was backed by gold up until not too long ago. And that's why cash doesn't work anymore. It's because it's a hyperinflationary system of where you can print out money. Do you have to be rich to get in? No, you don't have to be. So you can buy crypto a number of different ways. Okay, cash would be good if it was backed by something tangible like Bitcoin or gold, right? It would be non-inflationary. You could actually have your cash. That's the difference, actually. I watched a really good talk with Jordan Peterson or someone else. No, it was Lex, but the like the British pound was backed by gold. So you could take like your say your $1,000 or your life savings. You could stash that cash under your mattress, and 10 years later, you would actually have more there. You'd be able to buy more with that cash because gold would be like there'd be more goods being pumped into the economy while a very stable inflationary rate of about 1.5%. So that's why cash used to be actually really good, is because you could save. And that's such a huge problem that we have right now, is that we don't have anything to save. We don't know what we have. Like, it's better for you to be in debt right now than it is for you to have cash. Because if you've got cash in the bank, then, or under your couch, that cash is like losing value very, very fast. So actually our economy is currently incentivizing people not to save. And that's a problem. That's actually another part of why our economy has gone downhill so much in the last 50 to 100 years. Because people used to be able to save. They'd take their money, stuff it under their mattress, and that would be that. And their money would actually improve in its value. You'd be able to buy more stuff in a year or two with it, not less. So who's a reputable crypto seller? There are Bitcoin ATMs around here if you want to get Bitcoin privately, which is a good idea. But you can also purchase it through exchanges. Yeah, how you can access Bitcoin is it's not exactly the most user-friendly thing yet. You can buy, sell, trade on Ogre, which is completely private. Okay, that's great, John. I'm going to actually look into that myself. Any banker can push or print money. Yeah, and exactly that. Any banker can just devalue your cash, and that's the problem. And that's the problem that crypto and Bitcoin specifically fixes. Thank you for explaining this. Yeah, do you have to be rich? No, you don't. You can get in with a little bit. I think it's actually a worthwhile time to get into crypto right now. Yeah, Laura, I think that's it's a wise thing. I mean, I was able to get into computers as a young kid, but I don't know how I would be able to get into computers if I was, 30 and just getting started. So I commend all of your efforts there for folks who are trying to figure out the computer and trying to be more comfortable on it. And yeah, it's a struggle. Fiat cash is worthless. Yeah, it's bankers and politicians have been just screwing with people's money for far too long, and that's why Satoshi came up with some random guy that nobody knows, private name, came up with Bitcoin. Some people say it was aliens, and I'm not sure it wasn't aliens. Yeah. So you can set up a trading account. Okay, yeah. So you can trade with small amounts. That's also important. Save canned beans, pork. Yeah, guys, make sure you're stocked up. Make sure you've got a good stockpile of rice and some water and some ammo and medical supplies and lighters and all of the good stuff that's going to be worth infinitely more than any amount of Bitcoin or food, or gold. Wants his revenues to be in gold rather than rubles are. Yeah, I'd say can't understand it. Like, how much can you buy for $100, and does that stay at 100 or lose value? So, Linda, the trajectory for Bitcoin is up. Banks would close down if everyone went to crypto. Exactly. So that's kind of what I'm saying. That brings that nicely brings that right around to authority through competency, guys. So again, it's like this new Renaissance mindset that we're seeing the banks, we're seeing the governments, and we're seeing the media. They're all completely losing their authority. They're digging their ditch deeper and deeper and deeper as people are seeing, well, the truckers got their bank accounts closed. Well, why are we using banks anymore? Like, be bankless. That's the way of the future. The future that's where I was also going with cryptocurrency, is that it's actually creating new ways for us to organize. We're creating new organizations that are not a government, not a nonprofit, not a corporation, not a charity. They are decentralized autonomous organizations. Yeah, so AI is Satan. Yeah, well, to a certain extent, I mean, I would absolutely say so. Like trying to create human-like conscious AI is insane. But I do like when I get reminders on my calendar for events that I have to go to. So that's it's not AI, but it's like it's coding that makes that work. Rice and beans, like Costa Rica. Jonathan loves his yeah. Jonathan does love his ammo. Lots of deer out there. Well, that's good. Yeah. So if you guys are out there, make sure you stockpile some food, make some pemmican like old days if you need to, because I don't know. Personally, I think things are getting pretty shaky. But yeah, I think that cryptocurrency and these breakaway societies, cryptocurrency not only allows us to actually have our own currency, but it also allows us to host our own verifiably secure elections. So that's yeah, that's Todd.
And it's perfect that you said that, because really, I think the only question that I have, and by the way, I think I like retire from broadcasting on Tuesday nights at this point. It's been like an awesome show. I've
Oh, thanks,
enjoyed
man. Yeah.
every moment of it. Just been sitting back listening to all of it. Brilliant conversation. Yeah, hand for said Mike should take over Tuesdays. Yeah, my only question, and I think we've talked about this before. I think we kind of touched on it when we had Mark Friesen on at one point. You know, you're very pro kind of crypto and pro kind of all kinds of different, forms of individual sovereignty and that kind of thing. But let's just stick with, very pro cryptocurrency and decentralized thing, currency like that. And also very questioning of government, even, kind of fairly, anti-establishment. So when you hear someone like a Pierre Polyev saying that he wants to kind of usher in crypto in a big way to Canada, and that he wants to do so in the exact same way that you would want to have the conversation, I guess, like you yourself have here tonight, saying like, the central banks, the government, the politicians have completely screwed up, like, cash, the fiat currency, and all the same points that, a lot of us talk about, are aware of, and, and that are, counterculture. But yeah, so when you hear someone like that, someone, vying for the leadership of the Conservative Party, then of course, Prime Minister, saying those kinds of things, and we're always concerned, I know there's been concern right from day one with cryptocurrency of what is the government going to do to try to gain some kind of ownership over this, right? Some kind of how are they going to get their hands in it, right? Always a concern. So when Pierre says something like that, of course, I'm sure there's a lot of people that think that might be, the reason for that kind of concern right there. Anyhow, what's your take on it when you hear someone like Pierre say this?
Saying like him being pro crypto, or
Right. Yes. Yeah.
yeah. Well, that's yeah. Like I honestly, I think it's hard for me to decipher whether or not somebody like Pierre is honest in his undertakings and his mission.
Right.
To me, I'm kind of in the middle, and I lean towards him being, especially with that Peterson episode recently, where he's like the only politician who's really willing to, one of the only politicians who's willing to take on this new media format of just like long form dialogue. So Pierre was on with Peterson for about an hour and a half, and yeah, he was talking about a lot of this stuff. So, but to me, it's
Did you watch much of that?
yeah, I watched the whole. Yeah, it was good.
Okay, I'll have to go check that out. Actually, I was unaware that happened. That's really interesting.
It was really good.
Okay,
And
cool.
yeah. And so like he doesn't even talk about crypto too much, but he does make some good points about Canadian energy, and like he's definitely got some good insight into what Canada is currently in terms of the economy and all that. But when it comes to crypto, like I just don't think he's really got as far into it and really even understands it to maybe as much of like a big picture philosophical perspective.
So, like,
Because like
you almost kind of wonder, like, is he actually even involved in it himself as an individual, or is he maybe just kind
oh, I
of?
know he's got Bitcoin, like he was saying, he went and bought
Okay.
a shawarma or whatever with
Okay.
crypto with Bitcoin. But and that's why I think he actually does see the individual sovereignty part of it.
Okay.
Because
Yeah.
yeah, like with Bitcoin, even still, they're trying to. I just read an article today that's like China bans Bitcoin and Bitcoin mining, but guess what? China is still the second largest cryptocurrency mining country in the world because they're all underground and they're still doing it despite the heavy oppression of the Chinese government. So it's like this is a tool to defeat tyranny. This is not a tool for them to use tyranny against us. They will, now to answer your question, Todd, they will try to, like the dinosaurs that they are, try to issue their own central bank digital currency. And we know that. And that's going to be vouchers so that if they don't like you, they can either turn you off or you could say, well, you've bought your share of red meat this week. So you can no longer, even though you've got 1,000 credits in the bank, you can't buy any red meat anymore because they're vouchers, right? So that's where the cryptocurrency goes south, goes sour.
Yeah. Well, you know what? That's a great point as well, too. You know, you don't hear it mentioned like that as often with sort of like the conversation of government and crypto, saying like, yeah, the government doesn't necessarily need. It's actually a really good point. Something to almost elaborate on. The government doesn't really need to try to mess around with, try to get involved with, try to manipulate, there's a better word, already existing cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, Ethereum, and whatever else. Because funny enough, of course, there's big international plans, World Economic Forum, and so on, talking about, a digital currency that they're working on, that they want to, unleash. So that's a very good point. So many people are always concerned that they're going to get their hands on Bitcoin and stuff like that, right? Or that they already have, or something like that. But yeah, what an incredible point to make. Which is like, why would they really need to? Because their big thing is they really want to develop their own and make it like, of course, the world's currency, right? So yeah, that's a solid point.
Well, and that's exactly, yeah, like Bitcoin is uncontrollable. It's decentralized. Nobody owns it. It just is there doing its thing. It was somebody coded it. And that's honestly, Todd, that's a great point because that's how I see the real leaders of today. The real leaders of today are not the Pierre Poilievres trying to vying for political power. No, the real leaders are coding. They're building the future what they're doing is they're creating like widgets that can take control of the power that then if we buy into them, then they will run automatically. So it's like instead of true politicians trying to get into the seat of power, what true politicians, in my estimation, are doing are people like the Cardano guy or like Vitalik, who are actually building a future where they're building politicians out of the future. Like saying like these greasy sons of bitches, like they've been screwing us around for so long. And heck, it was the best system we had for a while, but now we have technology to do better and we don't have to have this trusting slimy greaseballs anymore. We don't have to put our trust into a fallible individual.
And how fitting, right? There's a lot of, I guess, like the joke with Bill Gates and so many others, right? There is a lot of what we would, kind of joke around and call the nerds that have, taken over a large part of the world in kind of course, the wrong direction and the more like a evil sense. But of course, we all should have known that then that will be embattled and maybe even defeated by a group of other nerds.
Yeah, well, exactly. So, yeah, well, that's why I was saying, like, back in one of my talks a while ago, it's just that, yeah, like these nerds who are underground that are, releasing like WikiLeaks, releasing the footage, which is like I was saying, man, without the technology that we have, we would have never seen that. We would have never been able to hold them to account. And so,
no, absolutely. Some of the things that have happened just because of people tinkering around with ones and zeros, computers, the whole bit, the internet, of course, is really incredible stuff. Absolutely, stuff that has absolutely changed the sort of the battleground between good and evil. Let's say, there's no two ways around it. That's absolutely the truth.
But on that note, like guys, like I'm too much of a hermit sometimes. Don't get me wrong. Like I got to get out there and be with people too, because I'm all like,
No
A little
pocket
bit too
protector,
much of a
Mike. Come
geek.
on, come on.
Yeah.
Pocket protector next time with the perfect like one red, one blue.
See, I'm not that much of a geek, but like I do appreciate me some nerdiness sometimes.
For the sake of entertainment, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, right on, guys. Well, I that's been about an hour of me just flapping my gums here, guys. I don't know how you guys sat through it all, but
It's been stellar.
yeah, it was
It's
good.
been stellar.
Awesome.
I wish I had a good crowd of people here with me because, well, you know, it would have been actually, you know, sitting here kind of chilling by myself has been a nice way to kind of listen to that whole wonderful conversation. I'm
Yeah,
sure
well,
many others enjoyed.
yeah, and I'll be sharing this around too so that people can look after it and just kind of get wrapped around my head. But yeah, guys, thank you for joining and thank you for watching. And yeah, I think it's going to be Tuesday's Talk About with Mike Jar from
Right.
moving forward.
That's beautiful. And
Cool beans, everybody.
we'll see everybody on Thursday.
Yeah, we'll be back for Thursday evening. So you beautiful
Certainly.
people have a great evening and bye for now.
Very true.
Very truth.